carried on. The case is the teenage girl abandoned their babies at a remote forest where people hardly visit has happened a lot one after another these days in Japan. And mostly those girls give a birth to their babies at a restroom of a supermarket and a department store by themselves while suffering terrible anguish of childbirth without being known by anyone. So recently, one dead baby put in a bag was found underneath rice fields in the countryside of Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan. A teenage girl got arrested under suspicion of murder and corpse abandonment by police, and she's now under detention at a police station. So this type of incident has happened a lot in Japan, and it is quite obvious that thoughtless teenagers easily abandon themselves to sex desire and sexual stimulation without even thinking about responsibility for childbirth, because it's still even difficult for grown-ups to resist and control sexual desire and sexual stimulation, and some of them have still have a sense of irresponsibility for childbirth even though they love having sex with someone. So not only Japanese society, but also societies in other countries have this kind of risks as well. And as a matter of fact, those girls are brought to justice under suspicion of murder at a court. Her guilt may be conceded to some extent considering intention of a baby abandonment this time. But concluding that baby abandonment is crime and irresponsible intercourse without contraception is really sinful activity by common morality, and the law of justice makes society recognize that intercourse by teenagers or teenage couple is a taboo, obviously. Of course, baby abandonment is not permissible legally, but to avoid this kind of tragedy from teenagers, I'm sure it is a problem solved by not only legal factor, but also our consensus to teenagers' intercourse. So if we see intercourse by teenagers as a social taboo, children having sex with someone can't take anyone into their confidence. I mean, they can't tell anybody what they actually did, especially when becoming pregnant. So unmistakably, they will hide the fact they had sex with someone because social consensus treats intercourse by teenager as a taboo. So of course, anybody doesn't want to tell, sexual affairs, but this kind of social consensus makes society more difficult for children to confess their sexual affairs, especially when they fall into this kind of contingency. So they can't consult any adults whom they can normally rely on this matter. So they have no choice, but they have to solve this problem by themselves anyhow. But they don't actually know how. So they tend to choose easier and more realistic way to deal with the problem within the possible range that children can come up with a solution of this problem. So they understand babies abandoning is morally wrong, no matter how well they think of it. But this is the most realistic way and most realistic choice for them. So having sex with someone is too early for teenagers because if they become pregnant, they end up bearing a great physical burden, and if they give a birth to a child, who can take care of babies and take responsibility for supporting living financially? So this is a right argument. This is the right argument. But if this right argument made a society seeing child intercourse as a taboo and made a reason that drove children to do extreme activity after pregnancy, if they worried too much about solution without being known by anyone, this social consensus indirectly created tragedy like baby abandonment. So, if a society had a certain sexual morality and told children to abstain from intercourse as a common morality, but it partially accepted child's intercourse to some extent, grown-ups would kindly teach the method of contraception and prepare guidelines for childbirth for children if children become, pregnancy. So mostly mature countries have a certain consensus that children's intercourse is a taboo, and especially intercourse between adults and teenagers strictly prohibited by law. However, legal punishment may provoke child's guilty guilty conscience, and this fact may let them decide to keep secret about what they actually did even while they are pregnant, with the feeling that they want to defend their lovers. So, of course, legal justice must crack down these illegal activities without exception, regardless of having intention or not, to maintain security of humans' sexual field. But I think a society should make up for the shortcoming of legal justice, like it takes stance to partially accept child intercourse and show attitude to back up pregnant children in a kind manner, in a gentle manner. So I think a society that makes children feel like keeping secret of the fact of a pregnancy without being known by anyone has a certain problem about this, the tragedy of a baby abandonment.